My name is Mark Fallon, and I want to welcome you to the Greater Boston Postal Customer Council's webinar on social media for print and mail professionals. If you have any questions during this webinar, please use the chat box that appears on your screen. In addition to covering the prepared remarks, we'll answer as many of those questions as time allows. So let's get started. We have a lot to cover today during this webinar. We'll talk about what is meant when we use the term social media. We'll go over some social media websites, how to use social media for your organization, whether that be your company or professional association, how to use it as an individual, a couple of do's, and most importantly, a couple of don'ts, as well as some live examples of social media users. We'll actually pull up my LinkedIn account and go through that. So social media is a collection of online communication channels dedicated to community-based interaction, content sharing, and collaboration. So a couple of key points when you look at that definition. First is it's online communication channels. Note that that's plural. There are multiple ways to use online channels, and we'll cover several of those. It's community-based input, so it's not just you pushing information out, it's people sharing information. It's not top-down. There's interaction, which means you're starting a conversation. You're not speaking like I am right now for a presentation, but you want to communicate with people and get feedback from them as well. You want to share content. It's not just about promoting yourself or promoting your company. It's about sharing information that people find valuable. And lastly, collaboration. That means you're working together to improve everybody that's involved. So what I've listed here are the top 10 social media sites for professionals, and I want to make it clear that we're talking about for professionals here. LinkedIn is probably the only mainstream social media that's geared for business. It's to cyberspace what networking groups were when we would meet for coffee networking. That's kind of what you do with LinkedIn. It's a great way to meet customers, getting in touch with vendors, recruiting new employees, or just keeping up with what's happening in business and industry news. Twitter is perhaps the simplest of all social media platforms, and currently I would say the most publicized media platform. The limitation, of course, is messages are limited to 140 characters or less. It's a great way to get quick information, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. Facebook, this is the term that most people, when you say social media, they immediately think Facebook. And it's where you will find your friends, colleagues, and relatives. They're all there. And while it's mainly centralized around sharing photos, links, or thoughts of a personal nature, you can use it to show your support for specific brands or companies and organizations like the Boston PCC can use it to promote information. Instagram, this is a great connection between the camera feature on your smartphone and then all your social media profiles. It can be set up to link right with Twitter and Facebook. YouTube is a video sharing service, but you know, it's also become the second most popular search engine. So there's literally billions of videos on there. So that's another way to share information and to start conversations through the comment section. Google+, the goal here was to combine Facebook and Twitter into one site and backed by Google. Pinterest, some of the people on the call may use Pinterest. It's a great virtual, I would call it an inspiration board. And it's especially popular with the do-it-yourself crowd because it allows you to share pictures, creative thoughts, or projects that you're working on. Reddit is a social news site where the stories are curated by site members. So the site members are the editors. There's lots of subcommittees or subcommunities known as subreddits. And it might have a specific topic like technology, politics, music, comic books, whatever. Wikipedia, now while most people know that Wikipedia is an open online encyclopedia, the reason why it's included in social media is it's a collaborative effort. Anybody who is a user can add information to the Wikipedia site. You can submit an article for publication or edit an existing article. And then Snapchat, this app basically allows you to take a picture, add art and text if you want, and then send it to recipients for a set amount of time, after which the photo will delete and be removed from the company's servers. And we'll talk about later that while it's removed from the company's servers, it doesn't mean that it's disappeared from the world of the internet. So with organizations, social media is just one of several different communication channels. It isn't a catch-all. It doesn't replace email, it doesn't replace physical mail, and it doesn't replace newsletter. Instead, it supplements the other forms of communication by broadcasting them to a larger audience. What's important is that you have consistent messaging across the platforms. The tone and the message must be the same, whether it's an email, a blog, a LinkedIn post, or a tweet. When you're drafting and editing messages, think of the words and phrases that can be used on the different platforms. Your success relies on having a plan, and in this case it means having a schedule. Social media doesn't just happen. Organizations and individuals must schedule posts and monitor their sites, their pages, and their groups. Additionally, someone should also be monitoring your past posts, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. Social media within your organization should be an officer-level responsibility. That may be a director of communications, the vice president of communications, VP of marketing, somebody. Because just like any other messaging, social media is a critical communication path to your customers and your members. It can't just be, well, everybody should be doing social media. You need to have somebody assigned to this. And while the campaigns are monitored and scheduled by one leader, everyone in the organization should participate. The director or the VP will need a few other members to act as moderators and managers, and that includes posting links to articles of interest, adding comments to posts, and liking posts. Liking posts is important. We'll cover that a little bit more later. Now, consistency isn't always easy because we have many other responsibilities, and sometimes what you can do in physical print doesn't always translate to online. So you must post regularly and consistently. You might want to use task reminders or appointments in your calendar. I actually have appointments set up in Outlook to remind me about blog posts, LinkedIn posts, updates, etc. So I schedule a meeting with myself to work on social media. And that allows me when I'm planning my week, my day, or even the just next couple of hours. You might want to consider using social media tools, software, to schedule posts. For our company, the Berkshire Company, and my speaking website, markfallon.com, the platform for my website is HubSpot. Now, HubSpot is a social media company, a social marketing company out of Boston, and it allows me not just to update my website, but post to social media. I can track what posts are successful, where people are seeing my posts, and whether or not they're using it to get to my website. You can also use Google Analytics to that. But by tracking that information and then making adjustments, I've increased traffic to my website by over 300%. However, when you use that type of software, it costs money. There are some very low cost and some free tools that can also do this for your social media sites. And those include Hootsuite, Sprout Social, and Buffer. So my suggestion to you is to reach out to your company's marketing departments, reach out to other friends of yours that work in marketing, and see what experience they've had with these tools or other low-cost tools. remember that definition of social media that I talked about. You recognize that it's more than just posting about your company, your organization, or your events. Yes, you do want to post about what your company is doing and describe upcoming events. That's important. But you also want to consider posting about other industry news. Consider posting links to stories about the Postal Service. For example, postalnews.com is a great place for you to get additional information. So consider that as well. Social media is more than just one platform. So it's important for you to become part of the online community. Post information to other groups' pages, other business partners, and other industry sites. Some of your members may be Twitter users. Others might prefer Facebook. And for many businesses, LinkedIn is the place to be. The problem is you don't know what customers are using which sites. So they may be just going to Facebook or just Twitter or just LinkedIn. So you need to make sure you don't limit yourself. You post to multiple platforms. The same message, but to multiple platforms. In social media, like I said, and this is a repeat because it's important to remember, it's more than just posting. It's participating. You need to join discussions started by other people in other organizations. You might just want to compliment people on their successes. You want to grow your brand through every message. Who do you want people to think of you as? And that's what you need to be through social media as well as every other way you talk. I want to talk a little bit about what is networking. What we just said about group posting is even more important for individual posting. This impacts you and your organization because everywhere you go, you represent yourself, your company, and your organization. It may not sound right or fair, but in the 21st century, that's the way it is. As with posts, group posts rather, you need to participate. Join conversations on LinkedIn groups, retweet useful and fun information, or comment on people's Facebook posts. Go outside your industry and join groups that may have to do with your other interests. Now, if you don't feel comfortable posting your thoughts, you can still use like, share, or retweet posts that are by your company, your associations, or your friends. On LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook, when you like something, that's hitting the like button, that action is seen by your network, which spreads the information. Posts that I have made on different topics on different media platforms have been commented on by people I've never met before, and I'm not even directly connected to them. But they saw my information on someone in their network, and they liked something I wrote, so then they clicked on it. So remember, it's not just the people in your network, it's the network of your network. It's the same with comments. Just a few words help spread the information further. You might want to just say, great post. But even more importantly, you want to add insightful comments to demonstrate that you're a professional in the print and mailing industry. Maybe talk about how a change impacts your company, your clients, your mailings. You want to join multiple groups. In addition to the Greater Boston Postal Customer Council, join groups of associations and subjects that interest you. There's a lot of smart people out there. Take advantage of their knowledge. In your LinkedIn and Facebook settings, you get instant, daily, or weekly emails sent to you with a list of discussions in that group. So you can stay up to date. It doesn't mean you have to check every hour or even every day, although I do recommend trying to check every day. Again, use your Outlook or your Google Calendar to set aside time to review your social networks. So as promising, here's just a couple of things to remember when you're posting online. There's no privacy when you post on a public site. I don't care what your settings are. If you post something online, it can be seen by anybody. I want to emphasize that. Anybody. You should think about what would happen if your boss, your employees, your customers, or whoever you respect most in the world saw your post. Now, online discussions are good. However, online arguments aren't. You know, a good aspect of social media is the ability to discuss news and share opinions on a wide range of topics. The key word is to discuss. Please stay away from arguments, especially online arguments about anything political. You're only going to end up frustrated or potentially insulting or being insulted by someone else. Like in-person networking, a positive attitude helps. Do you know what you never see me post? Rants. And when people rant online, I don't read their posts. I just skip right over them. And generally, I end up removing that person from my news feed. I don't necessarily disconnect from them entirely, but I hide their posts. I think a lot of us have enough negativity to deal with in your day-to-day, and we don't need to add to it. Instead, be a positive person. Share joyful events, joyful news, etc. Think of social media as a cocktail party. If you walked into a cocktail party, who would you congregate to? Some people shouting in the corner at each other, or a couple of entertaining persons that have people smiling? I think we all know where you'd go. Now, there's also a fine line between promoting and spamming people. Of course, we're using social media to promote ourselves, our businesses, and our association. But hopefully, it's not just that. Take time to recognize the other people on your network. Comment on their updates, like their tweets, and then congratulate them when they post good news. Be social. If you're a group moderator, you have to pay attention. While we want to promote discussion, we mustn't be party to blatant disregard for others or hateful speech. You know, I was part of a group that were marathoners, and we would, comment online and support each other online. And then somebody started posting very derogatory comments about an individual. So as one of the moderators from the group, I first sent them a private message asking them to adjust their tone, and I deleted their posts. One of the group, there were two people involved. One of them apologized, and they even went publicly apologized to the group, and then the other person left the group. We're okay with that. We want people who are going to be supportive, not people who are going to attack us. I also want you to remember you need to think before you post, because anything on the internet is forever. And remember I talked about Snapchat deletes it from their servers. And you might even delete a post. But remember, somebody else may have saved it. This has been seen a lot in the news lately, especially with Twitter and Facebook. People may delete a post, but then somebody has saved it through a screenshot on their phone or some capture software on their PC. And every day you can read about somebody losing their job because of something that they posted. Their employer may have thought that was an inappropriate thing to post and a bad reflection on their company. You have to remember that free speech, the First Amendment, that means the government can't censor you. However, every employer has every right to maintain their image. And if you are publicly identified as part of that company, then they have a right to make sure you conform to that image. This is a tricky area, but it's one you always need to be aware of. As I said early on, before your post, always think about what would happen if my boss, my customers, or whoever it is you respect most in the world saw that. What would they think about it? So we're going to move on to LinkedIn, and I'm going to go live here for a second and move to my LinkedIn profile. So hold on one second. I want to show people what LinkedIn looks like right when you go in for the first time. So you can see that it's a little bit slow there. That's not due to my connection. That's because LinkedIn went through what they're calling an upgrade, and that has changed things a little bit. So one of it is it's slightly slower than it used to be. So when you click on the home button, your home button, it brings you to this page. And you want to make sure that your profile looks the way it's supposed to. And so it shows you some updates right away of what's happening with people. People within my network. So for example, here's one. Here shows somebody reposted something. I don't know Robert Marco Bo Trumbull, but Rick Gowdy, who's in my network, liked it, so now it shows up on my news feed. So that's really important to do. Now, if I click on my network, it's going to show several things. The first is, this morning I received invitations to connect with these 3 people. So there's Ms. Pinter, Ms. Brown, and Ms. McNeely. Do I know them, or do I want them to be in my network? So I know Terry McNeely, she's a good friend of mine, so I'm going to accept that. For Michelle and Susan, I will look at their profiles and determine, do we have something in common, and do I want to add them to my 1,800 people in my network? When I do decide to connect with somebody, I think about, does it make sense to have them in my network? So the next part is I can click on jobs, and LinkedIn will look at my profile and determine types of jobs that I would be a top applicant. So a consulting associate, that makes sense because I work in consulting. Project manager, again, that's in my profile, so would I be interested in any of that? And then if I go to notifications, it shows me what people did today. So I posted today about this. Somebody liked it and then commented on it. I post, people who follow me know that I post quotes every day. People liked my post. And then there are people who are having birthdays. These are just a few things going on in my network. So that way I don't have to know about it. I can look at theirs. So groups have, first they hid groups. Groups used to be on the front line. Now they're in their applications, and they've gone through some changes as well. So it's really important that you know what's going on in your groups. And the first page will show the groups that have the latest posts. Or I can click on My Groups. And look, right on top is a Greater Boston Postal Customer Council. So I can go through all of these groups, but I just want to very quickly, when I talk about groups you should belong to as a print and mail professional. So I have the Greater Boston Postal Council and MSMA New England. I also belong to digital printing, print industry networking, document strategy media, Mail Geeks. I belong to a lot of different groups that allow me to get different feeds that people are posting about. You also, some of you know that I'm a veteran, and so I belong to the Disabled Veterans Association or group. I also belong to Executive Athletes because I'm a runner, and you can also see, if I go down, you'll see my high school, Malden Catholic, my college, Suffolk University. So while I belong to a lot of groups that involve mail, because that's our primary business, I make sure I belong to groups that are just people who are interested in things similar to me. I don't know where the next good idea is going to come from. Let me just go. So if we go back to the presentation here, there's a list again of all the groups I belong to. Now I'd like to talk about Facebook. Facebook is an extension of your public profile. You can belong to groups. There's a Boston PCC group page. You can follow companies, have pages. And for most people, it's the primary place where they stay in touch with their friends and relatives. Even though this is primarily personal, you need to be aware of what you're posting. Yes, you should share your ideas. Yes, you should share your passions. You want to be authentic, but you also want to be aware. It's not just your network that's seeing this. everybody can see this. And as I said, the Greater Boston PCC has a Facebook page. Why do we do that? Because, as I told you, people use multiple platforms. Not everybody that's in the PCC is on LinkedIn, but some of them are on Facebook as well. So the same thing with your company and you as an individual, be on the multiple platforms. Twitter, we talked about. This is really great for getting that quick snapshot of what's happening in your network. As you can see, I'm not a massive tweeter. I've been on for over a year and only 2,200 tweets. I think there's some people that do that in a day. I'm following about 245 people, and I have 185 followers. A key thing when you're posting here is to use hashtags. You'll notice Neil Denton, he used to work in the mailing industry. Now he works for the YMCA. He always has hashtag YMCA. When I posted this, I had hashtag USPS, hashtag PCC. Some people will just follow hashtags, and that's why you're doing that. And as I said, another part of social media are blogs. Blogs still work, especially when you promote them through Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. You would want to integrate a blog with your company's website for several reasons, search engine optimization and all of that, but it makes your website a destination for people, and you can share that content. You can start conversations on there. You want to make sure you're consistent. So again, we have a blog that's strictly about the mailing industry, trends in print and mail, and then I have more an inspirational one, which is the little lessons on Mark Fallon. But again, because it's consistent, as you'll notice, the blog I posted last week is still about mail, right? Most people will immediately recognize the Fairbanks Tavern Cache. So regardless of where I'm posting, people know what Mark Fallon's about. So didn't have any questions yet, and are there any questions from the audience? Okay, so that being said, I'll be sending out a PDF of this presentation tomorrow, either this evening or tomorrow, to share with you, and all my contact information is on the last slide. Feel free to contact me afterwards if there's any additional assistance or information I can provide. Thank you again for joining me today, and to all our participants, thank you for belonging to the Greater Boston Postal Customer Council. The PCC serves a vital role in the education of professional mail managers, and we appreciate your support. Remember to follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and on our website, bostonpcc.org. Have a great day.